Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Week 5 of the NFL season. This nice little wrap-up edition was actually easy to make because it was a lot of very good games. Starting with a close one, believe it or not, in Seattle on Thursday night last week, the Seahawks barely escaped with a one-point victory. It was a good offensive showcase like I thought it would be. The Seahawks were just able to outlast them in the end. It was very entertaining from start to finish. Out in Carolina, the rookie Kyle Allen, the rookie quarterback, is still undefeated, 34-27 over the Jags. And even though everybody went crazy for Gardner Minshew, he did okay, but still wasn't enough to get a victory over the Panthers, who was essentially playing with a rookie quarterback. So that tells you everything you need to know about that team and about the Jaguars' defense. The Patriots, of course, slaughtered the Redskins 33-7. It was, I believe, the widest margin of victory in the whole, out of all the games this week. This was pretty predictable, though. Nothing of note here except that the Redskins fired their head coach, Jay Gruden, right after this game. I figured they would fire him sooner than later, considering the 0-5 start and considering how the Redskins have turned into, once again, the laughingstock of the NFL. And from there, we move on to Tennessee, where the Bills actually beat the Titans 14-7. It was a close game. Bills were able to pull it out, just barely pull it out. It was a close one. It really shouldn't have been that close. I thought the Bills were going to kind of sweep away with the Titans there, but Titans were able to make it interesting for 4 quarters, so that's always good. And then going to Pittsburgh, the Ravens barely beat the Steelers in overtime, 26-23. Came down to a field goal, of course, for the Ravens to win. The story of this game, though, is that even though Lamar Jackson threw 3 interceptions, the Ravens still won. It's just like when the 49ers committed, I believe it was 3 or 4 turnovers, and they still beat the Steelers. That tells you how much trash the Steelers are going to be for the rest of the season. So, really, this win right here says a lot about that team. Mason Rudolph got knocked out cold by Earl Thomas, and the scrub that they bought in did okay, but let's be honest. The scrub eventually figured out that he was a scrub, and he threw Juju Smith-Schuster, setting him up right into a turnover, which helped the Ravens win. It's almost as if the rookie realized that he was a rookie, and also realized that he was undrafted, which explains the turnover. So, as far as the Steelers go, they're done. Mike Tomlin's probably going to be out of a job after this year, but still plenty of season left. Maybe they'll do something. They probably won't, but hey, at least there's some optimism for them. And speaking of 26-23, we go to Cincinnati, and that's what happened to the Bengals, losing to the Cardinals. And once you lose to the Cardinals, you're pretty much certified as trash, as pure garbage for the season. The Bengals were already seen as that, but this game pretty much certifies them. So, not a whole lot of hope for the Bengals, and not a whole lot of hope for the Cardinals either, because both teams are pretty bad. And then the Texans put up the most points this week. They beat up on the Falcons on the road. And, of course, the Falcons' defense is so bad that now they're talking about firing the head coach, which honestly may not be a bad idea. That offense is good, but that defense is just god-awful. And from there we move on to New Orleans, where the Saints beat up on the Buccaneers 31-24. The score is actually closer than what the game actually was. The Saints controlled it. Buccaneers tried to make a game of it, but this mainly went to the Saints. And, of course, the Vikings finally bounced back and got a win on the road against, of course, the New York Giants 28-10. The Giants are getting beat up right now, and just people left and right out on that offense in terms of injuries. Daniel Jones is essentially going to have himself a very difficult time when he plays in Foxborough Thursday night. He's going to realize that this is a lot harder than it looks. Right now, he's looking good, but I believe New England's going to give him a reality check next week, and more on that later. And the Raiders in London, the first London game of the year, the Raiders beat the Bears 24-21. The story here, Khalil Mack losing to his former team, the team that traded him to the Bears, and John Gruden essentially proving why it was a good trade. They were able to beat him on the road on a short week. And quite frankly, this is a good one for the Raiders, though. The Raiders needed this win. They've actually been playing all right, even though it's been a lot of ugly football for 3 quarters. In the 4th quarter, they know how to pull out a victory, and that's really when it counts. The Eagles, of course, beat up on the Jets 31-6. The Jets are forever trash. Eagles got an easy win there. Broncos won 20-13 over the Chargers, getting their first win of the season That's not a good look for the Chargers. You give the first win of the season to the Broncos, your job's going to be under a microscope there, whoever the head coach is. All I can say is, I don't even remember the guy's name. Oh, Anthony Lynn. That head coach is going to be under a microscope because you just lost to the Broncos, who are supposed to be a pushover team. Management's going to notice, and a lot of fans are going to take notice too. That can't slide. And, of course, going to Dallas for the other 4 o'clock game, believe it or not. Only the Broncos and Chargers were the only other 4 o'clock game. This 4 o'clock game was a lot better as the Packers beat the Cowboys 34-24. The Cowboys starting to lose a little bit of steam. It was a good game, but they're starting to lose a little bit of steam. Got exposed slightly, but I wouldn't panic if I was a Cowboys fan because the season's so early. Even though a lot of the bandwagoners are already jumping off and screaming to fire Jason Garrett, even though I agree with that, should have happened 3 years ago. But bandwagoners are now calling for the head of Dak Prescott and Jason Garrett. I think it's premature myself. Still got plenty of season to go because you never know what will happen. And one of the biggest upsets of the weekend, the Colts, without Andrew Luck, somehow found a way to beat the Chiefs on Sunday night 19-13. It wasn't the prettiest game. It wasn't the most high-scoring game, but it was gritty. It was ugly. The Colts slowed down the high-powered, high-scoring Chiefs offense like they needed to and was able to pull out a victory as a result. And then on Monday night, the 49ers remained undefeated and just trampled the fucking Browns, skull-dragged them, curb-stomped them, and humiliated them in their own house, 31-3. 49ers getting a big win at home and keeping their undefeated record intact. I don't know if it'll be intact next week, but I will certainly cover that in the preview for week number 6. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you for the week 6 preview.